Aftermath. The day Earth changed. December 22nd, 2032. For months, the world had been watching Asteroid YR4, a city killer on a direct collision course with the Alps. Scientists from every major space agency confirmed the worst. Impact was unavoidable. Governments mobilized to evacuate towns and villages across Switzerland, Austria, and northern Italy. But with millions living in the region, there wasn't enough time or resources to move everyone. Highways were jammed, airports overwhelmed. Many had no choice but to stay and hope for a miracle that would never come. Yet as the world braced for the disaster, a different kind of evacuation was already taking place. The billionaire escape plan. At a private launch site in New Zealand, a spacecraft stood ready, the Prometheus, a state-of-the-art interplanetary transport built by Titan Aerospace, the most secretive spaceflight company on Earth. This was not a scientific mission. It was an escape. The ship had been built and funded by 8 of the world's wealthiest individuals, billionaires who had known about YR4 long before the public. Instead of working to save humanity, they had been preparing their own exit strategy. Among them were Nathan Cartwright, a tech mogul and energy tycoon; Victoria Langley, pharmaceutical empire heiress; Rafael Montoya, a global banking tycoon with deep government ties; Jiang Li, a Chinese AI pioneer; Charles and Evelyn Hastings, real estate magnates; Dmitry Orlov, a Russian oligarch; Elena Vasquez, a media mogul. At 3:45 a.m., as the world focused on YR4's impending impact, the Prometheus launched, vanishing into the night sky. Few noticed, fewer understood. On board, the billionaires sipped champagne, watching from orbit as the world beneath them prepared for its worst day in history. They smiled, convinced they had won. YR4, impact in the Alps. At 11:23 a.m., the sky over the Swiss Alps ignited. YR4 entered Earth's atmosphere at unimaginable speeds, glowing like a second sun. People in Zurich, Geneva, and Milan looked up, frozen in terror. Then, impact. The asteroid struck the heart of the Alps, somewhere between Switzerland and Austria. The explosion was unlike anything in recorded history. The shockwave tore through valleys, forests, and entire cities, flattening everything in its path. The heat was intense enough to ignite massive forest fires, turning the mountains into an inferno. A mushroom cloud of dust and debris erupted into the sky, blocking out the sun for thousands of miles. Millions were instantly vaporized. The world reeled in shock, but then something even worse happened. The second asteroid. As scientists monitored YR4's impact, they detected something unexpected. Another asteroid, hidden behind YR4, was now hurtling toward Earth. Slightly smaller, but moving faster. Impact in 6 hours. Target the Atlantic Ocean. Estimated tsunami height, 1,000 feet or more. There was no time to prepare. Governments tried issuing emergency warnings, but the power grids in Europe had been devastated by YR4's impact. Many who heard the news could only pray. At 5:57 p.m., the second asteroid slammed into the Atlantic, 700 miles west of Europe. The Great Flooding. The ocean erupted. A mega tsunami, nearly a mile high, formed in an instant. It tore across the Atlantic at supersonic speeds, devastating coastlines across Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Portugal and Spain were wiped from the map. The UK was nearly submerged, with only Scotland's peaks above water. The east coast of the US, from Boston to Miami, disappeared beneath the waves. West Africa's coastal cities were erased. Survivors fled inland, but the floodwaters reached deeper than anyone expected. The Amazon rainforest became an archipelago. The Sahara Desert, for the first time in thousands of years, had lakes. By the time the waters receded, millions more were dead. And above it all, floating beyond Earth's atmosphere, the Prometheus continued its journey to Mars. The billionaire's fate on Mars. The 8 billionaires had escaped Earth's destruction, but as they approached Mars' orbit, the truth became clear. Their underground colony, Red Horizon, had been pre-constructed by AI drones. But it was far from ready. Their supplies were limited. Their infrastructure was flawed. No more shipments would ever come from Earth. Without their wealth, hierarchy collapsed. Dmitry Orlov tried to hoard the remaining food supply. Days later, his frozen corpse was found outside the airlock. One by one, paranoia and hunger consumed them. By the end of the first year, only 3 remained: Cartwright, Langley, and Jiang. They stared at Earth through their telescopes, realizing the truth. They had escaped Earth, but they had not survived. Back on Earth, however, true survivors were proving them wrong. The rebuilding of the Alps. Those who remained on Earth faced a world forever changed. But humanity had always been resilient. A new coalition, the United Nations Reformation Council, UNRC, formed with one mission: rebuild civilization. In 2034, reconstruction began. A new city would rise from the ashes, one built not just to recover, but to thrive in a new era. They called it New Geneva. A self-sustaining megacity built to withstand future impacts. Floating districts, resistant to floods and disasters. Fusion-powered energy, eliminating reliance on fossil fuels. Underground bunkers, capable of sheltering millions. By 2040, New Geneva stood as a symbol of survival, proof that humanity had endured. A new Earth. Governments no longer worked in isolation. Nations once divided were now united in survival. Mars, once believed to be the next chapter of human history, had become a graveyard for the greedy. The last transmission from the Prometheus came in 2036, a desperate distress call from Nathan Cartwright. Earth did not answer. The survivors had chosen to stay, to rebuild, to rise from the ruins, not by running, not by hoarding wealth, but by standing together. As the sun rose over New Geneva, the message was clear: Earth had fallen, but humanity had risen.